And I'm going to get started by talking to you and thank you. Thanks so much for coming today. I know it's hard on a Friday, and we know that life is busy. And you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, one more thing. Are you going to put one more thing on my plate? I can't handle it. No, actually, we feel like this tool is going to help you and lessen the load. And we wouldn't do something without testing it out. Smart Online has updated their resources. It's been a bug in our ear for the past year, but it was never good enough to show you guys. We recently visited it, maybe even it wasn't that long ago, where we felt like, oh, this might be something worth pursuing. And then the updates were even better. And before we do anything, we try to break stuff. So we went in Becca Sikowski's fourth grade class and purposely pushed out a lesson and put everything known to man, the kitchen sink, to try to break it. And it didn't break. And we were like, huh. So then we tried it in other classrooms. And again, it didn't break. So then we tried it in an with iPads, and it worked great. So that's why we're ready to show it to you. We do believe it's going to make things easier. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the question and answer. We've also created a handy dandy handout that we'll share with you, the reference guide. We're going to show you all kinds of bits and pieces today, but everything we broke down into 2 to 5 minute screencast for you to go back and look at, because it's Friday and because you only might want 2 pieces instead of knowing everything. So we understand that. Think of this as a commercial. We're going to go through all the different things. Like I said, if you have 1 or 2 things that you like, our job is done. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we love about Smart Online. Well, we love that it's good for both in person as well as at home, remote. You can do teacher paced, where you're all working together, or you can share this as a link in your learning management system as student paced. So this could be great for a FID day in the future if there is one. It allows for collaboration. If you're doing teacher paced, you can engage collaboratively in teams. You can work individually, or you can share your slides as view only, and you don't have to pick and choose. You can change that throughout the lesson. It's great for mobility. Jonathan did a lesson where he pushed everything out strictly from the iPad, and he was able to annotate on it using a generic Apple Pencil. So you're no longer tied to your smartboard. You can walk around because you have a smartboard in front of you on your iPad, as well as the kids have it on their devices. So hopefully next year the live streaming will fade away, and you'll be able to use your iPad more for instructional purposes. There's so many ready-made activities that you can add interactive elements on the fly, and there's minimal creation time. Jonathan's going to make a lesson in about 3 to 4 minutes, and we're going to show you how to make the lesson, and then you're going to be able to go in as a student and try out the lesson. It integrates with Google Drive. You have a folder that's built in within your Google Drive. You access it from your Google Drive Smart Online. So anything you add, any of your your lessons are automatically populated into your Google Drive. It's easy to share with other teachers. You share the link. We'll show you how to do that, and they can view it, and then they have their own copy that doesn't have student data in it. It'll be great for the CMAP. Once you start adding your lessons, once you start creating your lessons, to just add to the CMAP. Remember, we're going to show you everything. You can do one of these things. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to my dashboard. When you go to your waffle, you will see what looks like a gobstopper. I call it a gobstopper. That's what I think of. Jonathan will show you as he builds it. But this is the dashboard of Smart Learning Online. So before I go to activities, I'm going to show you Explore Resources, because they're continuing to build this. And inside this, you can find manipulatives, you can find hands-on equations, already built activities that they've created. If I go back to the home button, the adding activities, this is all your little squares of things that you can do. Again, we have screencasts for every single one of these things, so don't feel like you have to remember everything today. But the most important for all of you is that you can import old notebooks. So you can take those notebooks that you have, and you can import it and make it online. And then with every slide that you upload, you can make slides interactive. You can add that infinite cloner to it. And then every kid can either have their copy, or you can work together as a group. So not only can you import notebooks, you can import pretty much anything: PowerPoints, PDFs, Google Slides. We're going to show you how to do that. You can add YouTube videos. You can add new pages where you insert like clip art. Like to use clip art from Canva EDU because it's very clean and looks great. And then you can make that clip art an infinite cloner. You could lock images. It's awesome. It's just like using a whiteboard or a notebook. The shouted out feature is kind of like Padlet. You can do a shouted out just as a regular shouted out, or you can have categories or KWL chart. They have responses, which, questions, answers, multiple choice, true and false. Game-based activities, there are 11 of them. We'll show you an example of one of them, but if you go to preview, it kind of gives you a little tutorial of what each of the activities is. So this is something you can drag and add to. Say I uploaded a Google slide. Now I want to add some interactive elements. These are the interactive elements that I can add to it. Activating prior knowledges like the shouted out activities I was telling you about, questions and reflections, graphic organizers, things like story maps that you can add, you can edit. Again, remember, you can do it as individually, or you can do it collaboratively, or have them in teams. The last thing that I think you guys will love, these are like work mats that already have the infinite cloners built in. These are already ready-made activities with things like base 10 blocks, coins, fraction tiles, clocks, math expressions, musical notes, pattern blocks. There's so much there for you to use. So the possibilities of how you want to build your lessons are really endless, and a lot of stuff is ready-made. So Jonathan, I believe I can throw this over to you.
Awesome summary, Shelly. So this is the what we thought would be kind of a good way for you guys to see. And again, as Shelly said earlier, we're not trying to throw anything on your plate here. This is really hopefully something that's going to alleviate some of the stress of having to deal with having some students that are virtual and some that are in person, and trying to navigate that and still maintain a sense of community in your class. A lot of our middle school teachers right now are kind of jumping on this just because we have so many classrooms where there's maybe 6 kids at home and 14 kids in the classroom. And Smart Online really does a nice job of kind of finding a way to connect everybody together by making those collaborative activities and individual paced activities, things like that. So I'm going to attempt to just create just a short 6 activity lesson, and I hope I can do it in about 3-4 minutes, just to show you that it's really not that challenging or time consuming to build these kind of lessons. So I'm sharing my screen, and Shelly, feel free to just jump in if I forget something along the way here. I'm going to just start from my Google home screen, and I'm going to click on my waffle grid and scroll down to about the 3rd section where we find that little Smart Learning Suite online gobstopper icon. And Smart Learning Suite, one thing that we've been testing along the way here is just kind of its speed time on the network, and it's been really, really good lately. In maybe the 10 classes that we've been in, we had maybe, I don't know, a 20-second lag for a student, and we told them to refresh their screen and everything came back. So it seems like it's really connecting well. So what I'm going to do is, on my home screen, I'm going to click the Add Activities button to begin creating a lesson. And I want to start by importing something, because all of you have lesson plans and things that you use in your class. And I think it makes a lot of sense to start by just importing something that we already have to show you how we can turn it into an interactive. So I'm going to actually import from Google Drive, but you can import from your desktop as well if you have a PowerPoint or Keynote or something like that. But I'm going to go into my Google Drive, and I'm going to actually select the Google slideshow that Shelly was using when she was telling you, here's why we like Smart Learning Suite Online. So this is just a 2-slide Google slideshow, and this is probably the thing that takes the longest to load in Smart Learning Suite Online. When you first import something from Drive, it takes about 10 to 30 seconds for it to come in there.
That was probably the quickest one. That was a good one.
Yep. So I mean, that went in pretty quick, but that's essentially the longest wait time you're going to have.
If you have a bigger notebook, it does take a while, but just be patient. It will upload because, there's a lot of slides, but it's worth it.
So you can see here, this was a Google slideshow, and it looks exactly like a Google slideshow as I'm editing. You can see my thumbnails of my slides on my left-hand side. But here's where Smart Learning Suite gets really fun. If you look at the bottom of the screen, you have a Convert to Activity button. So before I make this an interactive slide for my students, I'm just going to add a couple things to this slide. I'm going to turn this slide into an exit ticket for everybody. So I have the option to add some text or to add an image, and I'm going to click on the image button, and I'm going to choose one from my desktop here. And I have a star that I pulled from Canva EDU where we took out the background, so it's just a little star. I can resize it, and I'm going to put it inside this circle here. And if you look to the right of my image, I have a little drop-down button. And I can actually turn on Infinite Cloner now for that image. So as people, you see the little like infinity sign here, as people grab this star, it's just going to keep replicating more and more stars. So this will be our exit ticket at the end, so that after you see everything that it can do, I'll let you drag a star onto one of the features here of Smart Online that you say, hey, I think that's something that I like about it. So now that I've got the star, I also just want to show you briefly on every single slide that you create in Smart Online. If you look at the bottom left here, the little person icon that looks like it's speaking, if I click on that, I can add up to 5 minutes of instructional audio on any slide that I create. So for this one, I'm just going to show you for a sample. If I hit start recording, hello, thank you for doing this exit ticket. Please click a star and tell us your favorite feature. So I'll pause that, and then I can add that right in. And you can see in the upper right-hand corner of my slide, now students have audio instructions for the slide, which is a pretty cool built-in feature. So this is the most important part. Anything you upload to Smart Online, if you want it to be view only, don't do anything. But if you want students to interact with that slide, if you go down to the Convert Activity button, you have two options. You can either make a slide an individual handout, which is a lot like going in Google Classroom and making a copy for every student, or you can make a page a collaborative workspace activity, which essentially allows you to have multiple students working on one page. So for this one, since it's going to be a whole class exit ticket, I'm going to click on it. And when we get to the actual activity, I'm just going to let all of us work on this page at once. So I'm just going to add in 3 more quick activities to show you how fast it is to do it. On the left-hand side of my screen, even though I have my Google slideshow in, I'm going to click this blue square button, and I'm going to throw in a shout it out activity. And this is essentially like a Padlet, and I'll make it like an icebreaker. So I'm just going to say, what's your favorite pizza topping? And I'm going to allow everyone to contribute at least 3 responses here. And I could customize this, but we'll stick with classic for now. And now I'm done. I just made a shout it out activity. And I can drag that so that I can put it wherever I want. You can move all of your slides and activities. And now I'm going to make another activity. And let's go with a manipulative. And I'm going to go with base 10 blocks here. So here's my manipulative, and if I wanted to, I could add some images or I could add some text to the labels up here, but I'm just going to say we're going to just go on here and create some math problems, and I'm going to convert this one to an activity and make it an individual handout. So everyone's going to get their own copy of this. Okay, we're done with that one. Now I'm going to add one more activity, and we're going to go with a graphic organizer. And we like the story map here. So this one just has a story with main characters, settings, supporting characters, the problem, solution, and I'm going to use the text box to choose which story we're going to cover. Let's go with the 3 little pigs. Everyone's fairly familiar. And we'll make the text a little bigger. There we go.
Jonathan is doing that. If you look over on the left-hand side, you can see the little icons now that are on the slides. The blue, you'll start to recognize what these slides mean. Is that me?
Sorry, bell here.
Mean. The blue one is shouted out. The purple one is for handouts. So that handout icon is for individual. So you're giving every individual one. And if you see the one on the last one, the exit ticket, that's that green. That's for if you want to put people in a team or if you want to work all together. That's like the collaborative icon.
Yep. So I'm going to convert this activity right here, and we're going to do another collaborative activity. But for this one, I'm going to set it up so that you're in teams of 2 or 3. And I don't have to do that yet. I'm going to do that once we start the actual lesson. Okay, so you can see right now I've got 5 slides here. I've got 4 activities going. And if I say, okay, this is great for my lesson, I'm going to hit finish editing. So I just created a 5 activity lesson right there. Took about 3-4 minutes. So what I want to do now is I'm going to officially start my lesson. I'm going to have you all join as students. So before you join as students, I just want you to see what the official lesson teacher page looks like. So we're currently in it right now. And just to show you a couple features here on the left side, I've got my people icon. And I can currently see who's in the class. So I actually had Isabella in here because I was testing something with her. So I'm just going to click on this and remove her so she's out of the class. And I have this teacher and student pacing button here. And this is one of our favorite features. And if you know anything about Nearpod or Pear Deck, This is basically our version of it that we all have subscriptions to that we don't have to pay anything for. Because if we leave it on teacher pacing, if I change the slides, it's going to make you come along with me, and I'm going to take you along my slideshow. If I switch to student pacing, you're going to be able to go with the slideshow at your own pace. So I'm going to have everybody join, and I'm going to ask that when you join, you keep your Google Meet tab open, obviously, but you can kind of bounce back and forth so that you can see the difference between the student view and the teacher view. And the way
before they join, can you go to the hamburger and show them how they would share this? Like, say it was a FID day, or say they wanted to share it with another teacher. How would they do that?
Sure. So if you make a really cool lesson and you want to share it with a teacher, or if you make a really great lesson and you want to have students work on it on their own pace, maybe for a FID day, or if you just have some extra practice that you want them to do, you click on the hamburger grid, click on the share button. You have two links. This is if I want to share a copy with another teacher. This is if I want to share the actual lesson with my students to work on at their own pace. And that's it. You can just post those to your LMS, or you could send the teacher, an email and just shoot the URL, and they'll be able to copy that lesson over to their own smart account. They can preview it first. It's pretty cool. So the way you would share this with your students in real time if you were actually doing a lesson, if you click on the people icon, it's got your class name and your class ID, and you can just basically have your students go to hellosmart.com. That's the link. So you can open up a new tab and go to hellosmart.com right now. It's going to show you a page with two kids on the front looking at their computer, and you are able to actually go in as a student if you want. If you want to sign in as a guest, you can. It really doesn't matter. It's not going to affect your teacher account because Smart lets people go in as students or teachers. And the first time you go in, you do need to enter a class ID. So think of it like the first time a kid joins a Google Classroom, they have to type in your 5 or 6 digit code. And then next time they go to a Google Classroom, they'll see your class there. It's the same way with Hello Smart. They go in, they type in the class ID once. Next time you go to Smart Online, you'll see Mr. Olshan's class, since you're all basically registering for it today. So you only have to really worry about this one time, and then you're good to go. And Shelly, were you able to post the...
Yes, I did. I put it right in the chat. And this is what you would do if you were on iPads or if you were on laptops. So it's all the same.
Yep, exactly. So I'll leave this up for just a sec here so people can get in. If you missed the class ID, Shelly posted it in the chat so that way if everyone can't get in the next 20 seconds or so, I'll close this so at least we can get started with it. But you can still find that class ID in the chat if you need to get in. And again, you're just going to hellosmart.com. You could post that hellosmart.com link directly in your LMS if you want. So I'll give everyone about another 5 seconds. All right, and if you missed that class ID again, you can just go ahead and take a look for it in the chat in the Google Meet. So everybody should on your screen, if you are looking at the at your student mode and you're actually in the Smart Online, you should see the screen that I see. Just to show you, I am in teacher-paced lessons right now. I can see Allie and Andrew and Beth and Chris and Jess and Carrie. I see everybody's name right here. And if I decide to move on to the next slide, you can see that automatically switches on your screen as well. So again, the teacher-paced thing, it's pretty great for bringing students along with you. I'm going to... I'm going to start the shouted out activity, and just so you can see the difference between my screen and your screen, feel free to switch back over to the Google Meet tab, and this is essentially what the Padlet looks like for the class. This is what I would probably display on my smartboard while my students receive what you guys are seeing, which is a text box where you can just throw in what's your favorite pizza topping. Feel free to just tell me your favorite pizza topping just for the heck of it, so it can kind of populate on this board so you can see how that looks, how that works. And as I start to see some of the responses come in here, they're pretty small, especially if a student's sitting at a desk, maybe 20 feet away from your board. The cool thing is that if I click on any of these responses, it does zoom in. It kind of darkens the background so that you can kind of decide what you want all the students to see if you're going through a shouted out activity like this. There's also a little trash can in the upper left-hand corner. So if somebody says something that might be inappropriate, so I can see here Lisa wrote meatballs. I'm going to just, I don't know if we want that there. We're going to throw that in the trash, and now we don't have to see it. So again, you can just remove student responses if you need to. And if you want to zoom in on something, you can just click on it and it will pop up. And at that point, I can go ahead and move on to the next slide, and you can see it automatically moved on to the next slide for you. Now, if you guys could right now, if you could just Actually, no, go ahead. You can go ahead and hit start and check out the base 10 blocks. I'll give you 30 seconds just to move some stuff, and then I'll have you come back to my screen so you can see what the teacher view is, because that's a really cool feature.
Definitely move things around because we want to show you what happens when you do that.
Okay, so hopefully you had a chance to move some of those manipulatives around and you were able to see the infinite cloner at work. And I see that some people submitted, so I see a little check mark. If you didn't see that, you do have all your students in the upper right-hand corner of each individual handout have like a done button. So it's kind of like the turn it in button in Google Classroom. If you guys could jump back on the tab with the Google Meet, because what we're looking at on my screen right now is the teacher view of this individual activity. And what happens is everybody that's in this lesson, they have their name show up and I see a check mark if they had done. And what I can do is I can click on anyone's name and I'm going to see whatever they worked on for their sheet. So this is Carrie's sheet that we're looking at right now. And you can see I left her a comment here with text. I used the pen tool. I could add images if I wanted. It's basically got all the tools the Jamboard does, but I can leave those comments. Now, only Carrie is going to see those comments unless I display it on my smart board. So you can leave individual feedback for all your students right here. And it's a great way to do that. And also just check, if you assign this outside of school, you could look 2 days later at this lesson and see who posted what. All right, let's move on to the next one because I want to make sure we get out of here in good time.
One thing you forgot to show, and that's okay, I'm answering. Beth Smith had the question, will students be able to access the link from home if they've not paid their fee? The answer is yes. We made sure that it was on the list so that students can access. We even tested out the YouTube, hoping that it would work, but the YouTube would not work, but everything else should work.
Yeah, and again, YouTube won't work in Edpuzzle for those students that are take home, no, but yeah, everything else does work.
And back to that quick activity, that activity that you were doing with the manipulatives, if you notice when Jonathan had his screen up with all of the students, it also said teacher handout. So you can click on that teacher handout and that kind of acts as a way for you to guide kids. I was in Lisa Colino's room and they were doing manipulatives, and as they were doing it, I clicked on teacher handout. So it was kind of like the answer key as we went over the answers together. So that teacher handout does work out. It's nice that you have your own copy to kind of guide the kids if you need to work on small groups, or it's nice to just have that button so that you have your own copy.
Yeah, I was with Alyssa Mills today at the middle school and she was doing a math activity and she was using the teacher handout essentially as her answer key. And that way, when students finish, she could pull that up and show them. So let's take a look at the interactive. And again, if you're not looking at the Google Meet right now, I'm going to ask that you just check this out really quick because this is kind of the cool feature here. And you're not going to see it if you're looking at the student view. So on my screen right now, I'm looking at the story map activity and I set this up as collaborative. Now, when you see these colored pencils in the background and the green icon, you know it's collaborative. If I hit set up, it's going to give me some choices here. It's going to say, how many teams would you like, or do I want everyone on one team? If I click this button, which I'm going to do for our exit ticket next, we're all working on this one page, or I can decide that I think I'm going to want 6 teams here. And when I click 6, you see all of the people in the Smart Online class right now are getting evenly distributed. So now I have pairs going all around. And if I decide that I don't think Allie and Beth should be working together, I'm going to move Lisa over with Beth. I can just switch those up. And then when I hit start workspace on my screen now, rather than seeing each individual student, I'm seeing teams. So on your screen, if you want to switch over to it right now, you'll probably just see which team you're on, who your partner is, and then you can click on start or begin or something like that. And you're going to both be looking at that graphic organizer. And even though, you're both remote right now and we're all virtual, you're able to see in real time what what you're accomplishing on that page. So again, this is a great use when you have students who are virtual and students who are in person, and it's going to automatically put them on teams so that the student at home is able to work with a kid in class at the same time to complete this activity.
And what's really cool is you're all in different buildings, 4 buildings. I'm at the high school. Jonathan's at the middle school. So we've got the whole district covered right now, which is pretty awesome.
Okay, so we don't actually have to do this story activity, and that's great. I see, yeah, my other group right here, my team 6, which was on team Ali and Sarah. Someone else put a pig picture there. That's great. I saw that happen. So you get the idea. It's similar as the individual, but the group piece is really nice. All right, so we're going to go to our last activity, which is just our exit ticket. I'm going to hit set up and make everybody on one team. This was essentially our commercial for SMART. And if you could just tell us what of these features is your favorite features that maybe you would use in your class, you can click on that star. It's got the infinite cloner. We're all working on the same page right now. You can drag it over to whatever feature you think could be valuable for you in your class. And I see as, people are going in there, you can see how it's working. Again, this was just, that was an exit ticket, took 5 seconds to make. But nice little features here. And again, the thing that we like is that students are, they're going on just like they would walk up to the whiteboard and move something. Everybody's computer is their own whiteboard. Everyone's interacting along the way. This was in teacher pace, so I kind of kept us all together, but I could switch to student pace at any point. So I see a lot of responses for, ready-made templates.
I love that there's different things in different places. So there might be features that are good for, there's features that are good for everybody, I think.
Collaboration, the in-person and remote combination. I agree with that too. So that was SMART in a nutshell. I'm going to end the lesson, which is going to boot everybody out of here. It's just going to tell you that the teacher ended the lesson, I think.
And one thing quick I want to say is they're doing a really good job of updating things. And as they update, we'll put it in our blog. But somebody asked a question of interactive dice, and that's coming. So those interactive features that you have with the old notebook, there's a way to, there's going to be a way to add them to the online feature. Chris Schaefer asked, is there a way to know if they listen to the recording? That's a great question. Someone even asked, can the students record their voices? Not yet. As far as we know, there's not a way yet, but we can look into it.
Chris, I know there's just to throw out about the recording, because that was another good question that some of our middle school teachers asked when they use this on the FID day. If you would put in like a game, like an interactive, like the matching game where you're matching up terms and the dragons flying away, all that, you don't get any data from that. You're not going to see that a kid played the game for 5 minutes. So we kind of found out the best solution was to post something like that or post a recording and then just go ahead and insert one of those exit tickets or insert something that basically lets the kids explain what they just listened to or just played. And that's kind of your data there to explain like, hey, I played this game and I got this, or I listened to the recording and I learned this. And that's sort of your check for understanding then for one of those types of activities.
And because it already integrates with Google Drive, our fingers and toes are crossed that someday it'll integrate with Google Classroom. Not saying that we've heard that yet, but I mean, the integration is already there. How awesome would it be if you could integrate it with, your learning management system?
Yeah, another question here from Carrie. She was saying if in student paced, can students skip around or do they have to go in order? No, when it's student paced, students can skip around. So one thing that I did when I was over at Lit-Excel, we had a lesson and there was about 3 or 4 activities in a row that all tested the same thing. They were just different formats. So kind of just said to the kids, like, you guys have 3 minutes to go ahead and just kind of decide which activity you want to do. When that 3 minutes was up, I switched back to teacher pace, and then I, kind of sucked everybody back to the slot I wanted to, but they could hop around to whatever activity they wanted. So
they have to log in with their Google account, which they already will be, but in order for the work to save and in order for it to be student paced at home, like a FID day, they have to log in. They have to be logged in with their Google account. They can't log in as a guest. Did you see, Jonathan, there was a message. Some people might have logged in as a guest, which is fine, but then the work won't be saved.
Right. Yeah, we definitely would encourage you to have your students log in with their Google accounts.
And sure. I can also see for the primary, the kids taking screenshots of their work and then uploading it to Seesaw if you wanted to use it as an assessment. But we could see this more as a formative piece right now and not a summative piece until they update some stuff. But there is a lot of great features that we hope that you could find beneficial. And again, not wanting to add more to your plate, but just to kind of stretch out and make things interactive, because we know your situations are so unique on a daily basis, sometimes, hourly basis. But this seems like a tool to us that is very capable of doing it all. So we just wanted to share it with you and know that we are here to support you any way we can. You're not alone. We're here to help. You guys are awesome. Happy Friday. Have an awesome weekend. Thanks for joining us. Get ready to go home and enjoy some sunshine. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks everybody. If you do want some specific help,
a little bit, but we don't want to take
email, put in a tech request.
3:15.
Yep, we'll hang if you guys want to talk more, but if you want to start up that, we can go for it. So,
right, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Shelly and Jonathan. That was awesome.
Yeah,
thank you. Have a good weekend.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.